Cypress, the counterintelligence podcast, hosted by IXN Solutions, the company you turn to for corporate counterintelligence expertise and creators of 351X. And we're live. Dave Turner, welcome back to the studio.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back. You caught me on a semi-vacation visiting my dad out in Arizona, so it's a little bit of a different background. But I can tell you the 80-degree weather is not a bad thing. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, Arizona is so beautiful. I love the Phoenix area. You just want to be outside when there's that much sun. Is it hot there or still pretty moderate?
A couple days it got into the 80s, so that's pretty hot for this time of year. But it's been pretty steadily in the 70s, which is perfect.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be better than Iowa.
It is. We're expecting some snow when I get back to Iowa, so that's not good.
Yeah, no bueno. Not a fan of the snow. Dave, a lot's happening in the news nowadays. Of course, everybody probably knows that, Operation, Epic Fury is kicking off in Iran. What's your assessment of that?
Well, I think it's long overdue. I think, those of us that served know that we were targeted by either Iran itself or by their affiliates all the time. So I think after 47 years, it's enough and long overdue. And, it's tough. It's a tough road to hoe for sure. But I think we're off to a good start. And I think in the long run, the world will be a better place after this.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it has been almost 50 years of, constant turmoil. And most of it centers around Iran. I mean, I hate that it has to happen, but it does have to happen. And so hopefully we have a really good outcome and life will be better after it's all said and done. So
absolutely.
So we have a very special guest, Dave, and I'm excited to have this conversation. This conversation really was initiated after a survey that we asked our guest and his company to run. And I don't want to steal his thunder, but I do want to introduce him to the Cypress podcast. His name is Anthony James. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Anthony, before we get into your story, can you tell us where you're working at and kind of what your job is now?
So currently I am an industrial security consultant working with a company called FSO Pros. And what we do is we provide industrial security support to clients who are members of cleared industry under the National Industrial Security Program, and also those who work under other programs like Department of Energy or Department of Homeland Security, who run separate programs as well.
That's fantastic. Such a hard job. So is it safe to say, industrial security specialist or consultant is very similar to an FSO?
Yeah. So all the industrial security consultants that we have all been FSOs in their own right before for other companies. I've worked for small companies where everybody was multi-hatted, everybody knew everybody, all the way up to large companies such as Huntington Ingalls Industries, where it's like a Fortune 50 company, thousands of workers, thousands of cleared contracts and cleared personnel. So,
yeah. Well, I have been an assistant FSO, and wow, that is a very, very hard job. And so my hat goes off to you. You have a very difficult role. And, it was really interesting because our FSO at the time was also the director of cybersecurity for a major, multi-billion-dollar company. And yeah, I mean, he was managing 50, 60 people and also an FSO. And so I'm sure we're going to get into that a little bit later. But before we do, really just want to hear your story. I mean, where did it all start? And how did you, become that industrial security specialist?
Well, for me, like a lot of people, it started when I was in the military. Back when I was a young NCO, actually had my hard stripes. I was a corporal, and I got brought over into military intelligence. And of course, you start doing intelligence, and one of the first things you do is get thrown into the security world quite fast and hard, whether you know it or not. So start off, of course, like most people did, with a little bit of personal security, some physical security, and then kind of grew from there, everything up to doing operational security, OPSEC and InfoSec, and eventually worked my way up into where I was working more at a division level and was the security manager for a division level asset. And I was actually helping to create those DD254s. And that which get pushed out to all of the cleared industry and cleared contractors, telling them, hey, you need a security clearance, and here's what you have to do it. So initially for the military, I was an artilleryman, so I can prove it. I've got the bad hearing and hearing aids and all to prove that as well. But that kind of came out through the years, and like I said, morphed into intelligence. I was originally went into intelligence as a human intelligence collector, so that definitely goes a lot into this and learning how to build out your security programs and vet your people. And everything from in this program from on the government side as a green suitor, and managing the programs from the green suitor side, and managing around 10,000 security clearances at a division level asset, to doing suitability adjudications, doing adjudications for an interim. I've been through the ICD 704 course as for adjudications and to be an adjudicator. I actually ran and did I did not run the program, but I actually was doing the background investigations for a while under the OPM contract as an OPM background investigator. So that was before I even became an FSO in my own right. So I've actually done everything from it on this side, on the government as a green suitor, helping to create the DD254s to get to the industry, to doing the background investigations for DOD and DOE, then being an adjudicator and doing the adjudications, to being the FSO, trying to get my people cleared and getting all the approvals done and getting their access straight to get them in the door and get them to work.
Oh, that's a fascinating story. So you share a similar background with our CEO, Jeremy Clark, who was also an artilleryman early on and then transitioned into military intelligence. So I do have to ask, I mean, which one did you like better? I assume it's the military intelligence side, but I don't know. I mean, some people really hang on to that artillery roots.
Well, I really do love the artillery. I cannot lie. There's nothing like this, like shooting that 155 millimeter artillery piece first thing in the morning, standing behind the gun and get the first big whiff of smoke from the burning gunpowder into your face in the morning. Nothing is quite like it. You remember that smell forever. However, I will say I do not miss playing around with 100-pound rounds and trying to deal with Private Scruffy, who decides he doesn't want to move rounds and doesn't want to do fire missions and all that. I did not miss any of that. But I do, on the intel side, I kind of did two jobs. I was a human turf for a while, then I was also an all-source analyst. I much preferred being a human intelligence collector than I did an all-source analyst. I like going out and running source operations and things of that nature. Did not really like working in the detention facilities and doing interrogations. I much preferred being out with the infantry or MPs or CAV or whoever and going out and doing those source operations out in the field.
Hey, I kind of latched on to something where you mentioned you'd done the background investigations as well, and we kind of share that as well. I did that for FBI and OPM as well. Mm-hmm. What did you get out of that, and kind of how does it help your current career? Did you learn something from that experience?
Well, I learned that the background investigators are for the most part, checking a box. The average background investigator is given a short course of how to do it and told, follow this checklist and go off and do great things. As a background investigator, even if I knew someone was purposely lying to me during the interview, there was no place for me to put that in my notes. They did not want to hear it. They did not care or anything, because they said, you are not trained to detect deceit. I was because I was a human intelligence collector. So I knew how to detect deceit, and I knew how to find out and be like, this person just told me 3 different stories over the last 30 minutes over the same subject, because I circled back around to it. But there was no place for them to say that to me. So in general, the background investigations, they do serve an important purpose, but the average investigator is not really trained to do the job, in my mind. They need better training. They need certain people, they need to have a place in there for the investigators. At least when I was doing it, there was no place for us to put notes in there saying, this person told me 3 different stories for the same answer on the same type, on the same information. And there's no place for that. It was just, hey, this is what the person said.
Yeah, it's definitely a check the box kind of a thing, just because there's such a high density of background investigations and they're always behind. So I can certainly see that. Yeah, it's bureaucracy for sure.
Yeah, when I went through the course, there was a few people there that were just retiring from the military. So they did random things with the military. We had one person who was working as a secretary at a car dealership, another person who just came from being a realtor, and someone else who had been an insurance salesperson, going straight to being background investigators. So yeah, that was kind of my experience with that one. It was a very thankless job. I used to have to go out to a Department of Energy site a good bit, and I always told my boss it was I get this warm fuzzy feeling every time I go out there. I'm not sure if it's me or the radiation, but we did what we had to do to get the job done as best we could.
Yeah, I would say, what I kind of got out of it was, at least I understood some of the pain points when it comes to, getting your clearance and obviously all the CI indicators and those types of things. So I think there was a little bit of, the fact that you could, at least have that knowledge going into what your current job is. So there probably some goodness, but yeah, certainly the bureaucracy of it isn't ideal. It's just, there's just so many investigations right now.
Yeah, they're behind, and it's going to be harder, hopefully, as Trusted Workforce 2.0 gets rolled in and wrapped back and everything else starts rolling in more, and they can not have to physically send investigators out all the time. That'll help alleviate a lot of that. And that's the hope. That was the goal of Trusted Workforce 2.0. We'll see if it actually works or not.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I want to hit back your military career one more time. And what time frame was it that you served in the military, and was it active duty or reserves, National Guard?
I had a mixture of National Guard and active duty. So I joined initially in 2000 while I was in college. I went to the Citadel. So went to the beloved home for lost wayward boys on the Ashley River in Charleston, South Carolina, and spent 4 years there and graduated from the Citadel there. And about 2 months after graduation, I actually got deployed to Iraq. So,
God.
So
yeah.
But joined in 2000 and actually retired out of the National Guard in 2024.
Yeah, it's a great career. Well, thank you for your service. And you went to the Citadel, which some very prominent guests of the Cypress podcast also graduated from the Citadel. Primarily Terry Bullard, who was a brigadier general with Air Force OSI, is an alumni of the Citadel, if you've ever met him.
I've never met him. I've heard some talks he's done and seen some times he's done different speeches and presentations and all that.
Yeah, just a great American. And so, okay, so you transitioned out of go into a National Guard status, or stay involved in the military, but then you really primarily focus on industrial security. But I'm interested from the DD Form 254 standpoint. Can you walk us through that process of what it looks like at a division level asset? How are you looking down at industry and saying, okay, well, here's the DD Form 254. Can you kind of walk us through what that looks like?
All right. Part of it's just, you start with the contracting side of it. Like, okay, what is what are we trying to do with these contractors? We have our contractors. What do they need? What does the contract say they need? And we start going down. Okay, well, they need access. Okay, well, what type of, well, we work we have SIPR rooms and stuff they need to work in. Okay, well, they need SIPR. And then we just start going through, you have to kind of work through it with that program manager or that department head, whoever they're working for, to figure out what the requirement is. Part of it goes back in fussing with the contracts people to include the proper FARS codes and DFARS codes and all that. And I'm sure y'all are familiar with those and how much of a pain they can be. I think Ryan over here, by the look on the camera, I think he's going to start having PTSD on the screen or something from when I brought up FARS and DFARS codes. But most of it is just a discussion, trying to figure out what is needed and why it's needed. Because it's not just, oh, they need secret access and they need NATO, and oh, well, why do they need it? And that's usually the hardest discussions, right? It's not just you say they need it, but why? And a lot of these times, depending on the rank difference, sometimes if you're a sergeant trying to complete the form and you have a lieutenant colonel telling you that you need these people to have all this stuff, and you're like, but why? That's not always a comfortable conversation to have. So you have to have the right people in the right positions. If this is a secret level contract, why do you need them to have SAP and ACCM and all this other stuff on it? Okay, net, probably not. It's a secret. They need secret access, but we need them to have SWNDI. We don't have anything SWNDI in our whole organization. People are just they're just marking things on the form. But a lot of it's just going back and forth, and then also talking to the contractor as well. That contractor PM is usually, honestly, a lot easier to work with sometimes than some of the other green suitors, depending on ranks and things of that nature. Like I said before, you really just have to work with them and say, okay, have y'all been on this contract before? If they have, okay, what did y'all really use?
And then, and if you can explain for our audience, because there are probably a lot of counterintelligence professionals that really don't operate in this lane that often, what is the significance of a 254 to a contractor?
So the DD-254 is basically that's the form that allows you to actually have your contractors with a security clearance. If you don't have that form, you can't have cleared contractors. You can't have your access turned on your people for that program. So if you have a person if you have someone who's splitting their time between two different programs, one requires a TS and one requires a secret, but the TS one hasn't given you they're saying they need TS for access to say, like, clean a skiff. Well, they're not accessing anything. They just need to get in the building. Well, I'm not turning a TS on for them because you haven't given me the forms. You're going to have to escort these people as uncleared staff. Well, it says in system as a secret, yep, but you can't use it. It's kind of that simple. Without that form, we can't turn on clearances for people. We can't send VARs for them, for that program. And it goes down everything to, well, we need them to have NATO access. They need to have a SIPR account and they need to be briefed for NATO. Well, NATO's not marked on the DD-254. We have to modify and revise the DD-254 to allow for NATO access now. So everything that is on that they need has to be on the DD-254.
Hey, Anthony. So, we've kind of talked a little bit about your military career, but, I'm kind of interested in your role as an FSO. And I know, Ryan has had some experience with that. I haven't been an FSO per se. I've been a battalion S2, which is somewhat similar, possibly. So I'm interested. What are some of the most common frustrations that you have as an FSO, would you say, as you're doing your job day to day?
Well, where should I start on that one? That's kind of that really is the question, right? Like, where do we go? What do we find? Everything from, I've had days where I've started my day, my inbox is pretty well caught up, where I've worked all day, I've worked a 10-hour day, and I have 50 emails still. I haven't even touched my inbox because everybody's just overloading you. All the way down to somebody's sitting there and saying, hey, I need a VAR turned in for today. And they send you information and they don't give you the SMO code that you have to send the VAR to, or the instructions say you have to send this in a week ahead of time. We have it really runs the gambit because most of the VARs are sent through DIS. at least for DoD and for much of the government, if they're running off the National Industrial Security Program, the VARs should be sent through DIS, which is the Defense Information System for Security. But it's not, it doesn't always work well. Sometimes you'll submit a VAR and the person will see the VAR in 5 minutes. Other times they won't see it till the next day. It gets lost in the widget, so to speak. The, other things that kind of get down through us, we have the workflows. Sometimes the workflows are just kind of clunky. The government says you have to do A, B, and C, and then, the NISPOM says you have to do A, B, and C, but then your customer is saying we want D, E, and F as well. Or, hey, nope, you can't do that. We need you to do X, Y, and Z instead. And it's like, I'm gonna have to do A, B, and C anyway, because we got to stay within compliance. We got to stay within federal law now. Back before we were under the 32 CFR Part 117, which is the new NISPOM, back when it was just a DoD manual, it was a little different. We had a little more leeway and flexibility. But now that it's been codified under federal law, we really have to follow that, because it's not just a slap, you get a slap on your wrist because you didn't do it. Now they can hold you legally and criminally responsible for not following the federal laws now. And that could even go, fines, jail time for people. They're not joking around with it anymore.
Just a quick follow-up. So you kind of talked a little bit about clearance paperwork, but things like foreign contact reporting, travel reporting, tracking the training that's required. How does that all work for you? And what are some of the pain points there?
Well, for some of it depends on the size of your company. Smaller companies, usually, if you only have a handful of people, it's usually ends up being, Outlook, calendar reminders, and spreadsheets and whiteboards. They'll, post something up on the whiteboard and have little color codes going. If you have several hundred cleared staff, you can't rely on that one. You get like some of the larger assets on the military side. We had like 10,000, almost 10,000 cleared personnel at one point, one command I was at. And it's like, how do you really keep up with 10,000 dates? And this was back when it was still 10 years for a secret and 5 for a TS. And now it's 5 years for everybody, regardless. So it really you really have to go through and find a good system depending on the size of your organization. But unfortunately, there's no like one great, for the long time. There's been not one real great like platform you can use. Like, oh, I just pump it all in here, and it tells me everything I need to know. There's never been one great place to go and just see everything in one sitting. There's not been that nice dashboard that everybody likes to have nowadays to say, what's going on in my life, and here's my dashboard, and I can see, here's my alerts, here's what's happened, here's what's going on, here's all that pertinent information. We run into, and part of that goes back into is like, okay, well, what are we being even fed? So like, as an FSO, am I getting all the information I need to even do the job properly? Like, how well is my BD staff, how well is the BD staff communicating with me about contracts they're even bidding on? Are they bidding on other contracts that need clearances? Do we need to provide them clearance verification letters for the facility saying, yes, we have a clearance, here's our proof? Can they transmit that to the government properly? Because those are now CUI. You can't just email it. You can't just put it in an email and send it. And sometimes they'll even put in the proposal saying, hey, do not include any CUI or classified information in this proposal stuff you sent to us. So it's like, okay, well, how do you want us to verify we have a clearance if you don't want to accept CUI? Then we have your PMs and all from the other side of something's been awarded to you. How do you actually know what's been awarded? Okay, you guys got a new contract. Is there a DD-254 on it included? I've had clients before where it's like they got a DD-254 given to them, but when they look back, they start asking questions. It was actually awarded to them 4 to 6 months earlier. They had just gotten it. They just got it, and the company has had it for 4 to 6 months, and they're wondering why their people aren't cleared. And they're like, you never gave me the documentation to tell me you needed clearances. And that's sad, but that is one thing, like if in a company, it's like you have to have that communication there for all of your, between your different departments. Your PMs have to be talking to security, your business development people need to be talking to security, and vice versa. Your FSO should be reaching out to your BD and say, hey, what's going on? What contracts do we have coming up? I know some business development people like to keep that close hold, that you think they're playing a high stakes game of poker here, of a $1 million pot or something, but your FSO is part of your company. They need to know these things. And then,
go ahead.
I'll say it even goes down to onboarding and offboarding. They'll bring people on and you don't even know they've brought in a new person, or, hey, Bob has quit or Bob was fired, and you don't find out for a few months that Bob is no longer there and he was a cleared person. And now, are you going to be able to get him debriefed properly?
Well, I recently read an article on LinkedIn, and it was very true that our facility security officers, our industrial security specialists, they're on the front line of national security, and they, should be enabled with good tools. But I was having a conversation today, and an FSO pointed out that there's actually 3 different government systems to report different things back to DCSA. Does that sound true to you? And if so, what are those 3 systems, and what are each one designed to accomplish?
I wish there was only 3, to be honest. So I guess we'll start at the first part. We have your FCL documentation. That's where your KMPs get submitted in. That's where, okay, you got a new DD254. That's where you have to submit all that information. Hey, I have export licenses. You have to submit all that as well. I had a foreign national visitor come to my facility. You have to report that as well, and that is through the system called NIST, the National Industrial Security Program Information System for Security, NISS. However, you cannot log into it directly. You have to log into another program to be able to log into that program. So you have to log into one program to turn around and be able to log into another program. But that is where all your FCL information is held. That's where your facility, that's where you submit all your paperwork to get your facility clearance. That's where you update it all. That's where you go in and update your programs that you have, your contracts that you have, your subcontracts that you've issued out to subcontractors beneath you that are on classified programs. So that's the first one. The next one is, we've kind of already discussed a little bit earlier, is DIS. A lot of people have been doing this for a while. That's the one that took over for JPAS from back in the day. That's the Defense Information System for Security. And that's where all the security clearances are held. That's where VARs are done. And that's where you can see your people, if they have eligibility or not, who owns them, or who has any type of relationship with them. If they have multiple profiles, like if they're a contractor, but then they're also in the reserves or in the guard, you'll be able to see that in there. And if the reserves or guard have them in classified access. The next one is NBIS, and the National Background Investigative System or Service. Excuse me. It's that currently is only used for one thing, and that is to initiate background investigations. Long story short, NBIS was supposed to have taken the place of DIS several years ago, but DIS didn't roll out until 2021. Although they've been talking about DIS rolling out since about 2012. DIS was supposed to take over for JPAS in about 2012, 2013, didn't come out to 2021. So long line of backlogs and systems not getting put out on time, and overdue systems, over budget. But NBIS currently is only used to initiate the EAP process, which is where you go in and fill out your SF-86s currently. Supposedly NBIS is supposed to be going away sometime this year, and they're gonna fix it to where we can initiate out of DIS again, but we'll see if and when that happens. There are other systems we use too. Another one is SWIFT, that is for transmitting fingerprints to DCSA for people who are going for their clearances or need updates. that we have to transmit fingerprints electronically to the government. We use the SWIFT system to transmit fingerprints. We had what was called NCCS, but that has now been rolled into the system that's called NI2, National Can't remember the acronym now, but it's called NI2. But it is literally and that system actually is doing the electronic way to do your DD-254s. And DCSA is supposed to be rolling that one out to everybody this year, is what they're saying. They've slow rolled it for several years. It's been out since about 2022, though, in one form or another. And that's not including, and that's just the main systems for DCSA. That doesn't include all of the reporting systems for cyber. It used to be DibNet. That's now gone. It's now called something else now. You have the DISA reporting stuff. You have the FBI reporting systems. And then we get into the branch specific stuff, like the Army for a lot of the SCI stuff uses ACCS. You have Air Force, parts of the Air Force likes to use ENOM for to do NDOC requests for SCI read-ons and access. So there's a plethora of different systems out there depending on your customer and what they want to use.
So you just rattled off probably 7-10 different systems that you have. So understanding how that all plays out and you know the workflows for each one of those. And then you have Excel spreadsheets and email and Teams, Slack channels. I've seen it all, right? I mean, and so you have about 20-25 different ways of communicating all of this information, and you're typically having to hand jam that stuff in manually. And so I have to ask, as kind of that frontline security professional, you know, looking out for threats and risk across the board, when do you have time to analyze those threats and risks?
That's the hard part, because about as soon as you get one piece in, you've got to turn around and try to handle something else. I mean, we all have, putting things into one place and then to turn around and log into another system and report it again someplace else and turn around and report it again someplace else. And then you have to send an email to people. I mean, it begins to really suck. It becomes a time suck, to be honest. It kills your time. You know, by the time and then that's not even tracking, oh my God, this does not want to work right now. Or I submitted a change in this and it did not save properly. So the last 30 minutes I've been inputting data into NIST, I now have to turn around and go back and do it again. Anyone that's worked in NIST feels that one. You never believe when it says it auto-saved anything, because it does not. You manually save every few minutes, because if you don't, you will lose all of your work. But I mean, you've got constant emails. You got to constantly update trackers. You're constantly chasing down information. Hey, Bob, I need this. Hey, Bob, I need this. Chasing down people, trying to get them to complete even their EAPs, complete their SF-86s in the system. Because you only have so many days to get logged in. If you don't log in within so many days, you got to call and get it reopened. And if you still don't do it, the whole thing just gets dropped, and you have to turn around and then you have to reinitiate the whole process all over again. I mean, it just really starts digging into your time. Every meeting you have to have. You're pulling if you pull your security guy into every single staff meeting that lasts an hour here, hour on Monday, hour on Wednesday, hour on Friday, how much time are you pulling away from him each week just doing staff meetings, and when there's no updates or there's nothing, when he just sits there, doesn't even have a part in the meeting. I've been a part of that one before. It's like we're in a meeting and it's like I'm there filling a seat because there's nothing for me to say. I don't have a dog in the fight, so to speak, in this meeting. How much time does it take you to maintain all of your security files? We have, our files, we have to maintain certain files, and we have to maintain them even after people leave for a certain number of years. How long does it take you to maintain those and keep those up to date? it just really goes through, and that's not including all of our inspections and audits. We have to do our self-inspections we have to do every year. DCSA comes in and wants to do a security review or audit. If you're a possessing facility and have an OSA, those inspections, that's not even getting to if you're a cleared facility and you're running a SCIF and you have DIA or NSA or whichever alphabet soup agency coming in to do an inspection of your SCIF. All these things just kind of just really dig into your time of how much you can really do. And all these are requirements. Sometimes you don't have a lot of time to do these, to really dig in and really research the things like you want to do. How much time do you get a report? Oh, I got this type of email. Great. Is this legit or not? Or do I just have time to write up a quick thing? Hey, one of my guys got this, and send it to your CISA and just move on and hope you hear back from them. Had a report. I actually got a chance to do a short, little bit of OSINT with a little while back, and a guy got an email, and people were claiming, hey, we're looking for 1099 consultants to just do a little bit of analytical work for us. And it was like geopolitical type, hey, what's going on in this part of the world? How does that fit in with ABC? One of our clients want to know for this industry, for this field, for this type of industry. And everything was going good. And then until he said, oh yeah, I need more information about your company because I need to report this to my employer because, hey, I got to report a potential and get approval to actually have be working, to be a 1099 for another employer. Did not want to give him the information, did not want him to even mention the fact that he was going to come and work for them as a 1099 to his employer. This individual was not a cleared staff member. He was an uncleared person working for this company and still reported it. A little bit of digging, turns out this company is a consulting firm based out of Singapore, and their whole web service is the whole web hosting system they use is linked to malicious Chinese actors posing as consultants and all kind of other companies as well, from investment firms, consulting firms, and all different things. It's, a little bit of it took me, a little bit of open source research, and I found all this stuff, but it's like, sometimes you just don't have the time to do that level, even research, not even 15, 20 minutes worth of research.
So yeah, it would definitely be helpful to have, a system that kind of aggregates all that information and has the ability to look at it at scale. So you can start to see some of those trends and things. Hey, Anthony, I kind of want to, you'd mentioned a little bit about compliance earlier. So I have a question about compliance and some of the pressures there. So what would you say are the most common findings during those DCSA security reviews that you see?
So most common ones, missing documentation runs into a lot of it, whether it's missing training, missing briefs. Hey, you're supposed to have NATO access for all these people, but they haven't re-signed the brief, and you're supposed to be rebriefed every year, but they haven't signed one in the last year. You haven't finished self-inspections or didn't report your self-inspection for the previous year. They went through everything, did all the checklists, but never went into NIST and actually marked it in the system as done. According to DCSA, it's not done. DD-254s are probably one of the biggest things they're missing. Companies, they don't want to they're not giving them. Their government doesn't want to give them. Their customers don't want to give it to them because they're like, well, you're not accessing information. You're just janitors. You don't need access. You don't need clearance. You're just janitors. Just turn on their secret. We just need them to be able to walk in the door properly. DD-254s aren't even written right. I mean, there's plenty of times. I know when I first started writing them when I was a green suiter, I didn't know how to write them. It took me a while, and I actually had a FSO come back to me like, hey, you missed, this is not right. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I actually learned from an FSO when I was a green suiter, because the average person does not know how to write them. And that's coming from the government side. You'll have someone put on a contract and say you have a TS FCL, but you have, multiple contracts, secret and TS, but you have someone put in TS access, but their contract only requires a secret. Well, why are they in TS access? You need to adjust their rate, their level until they're on another contract. when you've gone through, say you had a security review or your previous self-inspection, you found stuff and you never fixed it. Hey, yeah, we're missing this documentation. Still not found. A year later, you still haven't fixed it. You still have not put it. You still haven't gone through and fixed your own systems. Or you've gone through and like, hey, we got a new contract and we don't update NIST. Like their contracts they have listed in there from when they first got their FCL, and that was 3 years ago. And that one contract has been gone for the last 2 years, and they have 4 other contracts that they've had and never reported it to DCSA. That's a lot of the main ones. I mean, just keep your documentation updated, whether it's your SPPs, your ITPs. If you have to do a TCP or a technical control plan, say if you have some type of FOCI or foreign ownership control or influence, nexus, or say if you even have just foreign employees, you have foreign national employees, you have to have a TCP. Just keep it updated properly. Get everything. Make sure you're reporting everything like you're supposed to. One of your people takes a trip, make sure when they report it to you, you go in DIS and report it. If not, then that's going to look bad on you and your company.
So as I'm listening to you, it sounds like most of these things really aren't malicious in nature, right? They're just kind of, maybe ignorance is involved, just a lack of training and those types of things. Do you see that as well?
It is. I mean, part of it is like someone gives their 2-week notice and no one lets security know. They don't even think about it. They're not trying to like throw security under the bus. They're not trying to be sneaky about something, but hey, someone give us the 2 weeks notice. Their last day is on March 27th. Okay, we need to plan to get them debriefed before they leave. It's just that simple. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes we get a notice saying, hey, oh yeah, by the way, Bob's last day was February 28th. Thanks. Let me see. Do you have a email or phone, a good current phone number email for Bob, so I can try to get hold of him, because the only email I had was his company email, which is no longer working. And then you have to try to go back and try to get them to sign the documentation for you. Making sure everybody, and part of that, that comes from the top down. Your senior leadership, your KMPs, your senior management official, that CEO, that COO, whoever's leading the charge for security there, they need to push that down and make sure everybody else beneath them says, hey, give these guys what they need. Give these guys this information. This is not an optional thing, and we have to do this.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because you do have government systems that you're uploading. You should be uploading this information to, but you don't really have ready access to it. It's my assumption, not having been in those systems. Well, I take it back. I was in DIS a long time ago, and I could look at security clearances. And, one of the things that I always found is that we would get a contractor that came from somebody else, a different company, but that company didn't release ownership of them. And then that took time for me to reach out to that company or, take ownership. It's always a mess that way. But I think there's also opportunities for employees to moonlight, because the system is not great. And I can see where, and I have seen in the past where contractors have moonlighted for 2 different government contractors, and this was just incorrect and it didn't get caught. Have you experienced that?
Yeah. I mean, can 2 different companies or 3 different companies have ownership of your profile in DIS? Absolutely. And there's no flag in the system or anything. Someone has to go check. But the biggest thing is it has to be reported. If you're a 1099 for 3 different companies, all 3 of them can have you an access, but they all need to know about each other. That communication is key. Because if you're not reporting stuff like you're supposed to, like if you have multiple employments, you have to report it all. It has to be on your SF-80. A good rule of thumb, if it's on your SF-86, you need to self-report it, even in between. So, you have your SF-86, it says list all your employments. Well, you got to list them all. If it comes out and showing that you're not doing it, then that's an insider threat indicator. That's an indicator you're not doing what you're supposed to with your security clearance. I mean, companies can turn around and debrief you administratively until they can get what they want, but then the government can turn around and and remove your clearance pending a re-adjudication of your clearance because you're not reporting everything.
So one of the things that I learned as an assistant FSO for a larger company, and I think we had 5,000 contractors that fell underneath our cage, I guess is the way that we described it. And we had shared drives, email inboxes, spreadsheets. It came in all different formats. We had two DD form 254s. I think that's what it was. We had one that was associated with the VA and one that was associated with the DoD. Each one of those had different reporting requirements. It was a total mess. And so we had information scattered all over the place. Well, I was also doubling as the Insider Threat Program Senior Official, the ITPSO. And so it was my responsibility to hunt down and track potential insider threats. Well, there was no way to kind of build that history of an employee. How often did they go travel? Where did they go to? Were they debriefed? Because our information was scattered all over the place. So having all of those scars and all of those bad memories, whenever I joined IXN Solutions about 18 months ago, one of the things I was like, we've got to solve this problem. And there has to be a better way of doing this. It's the same processes over and over and over. And if it's the same process, then we can build technology to enable us to do that. And so that was kind of the beginning of 351X. And I know FSO Pros is very familiar with 351X, and y'all have had a major play in making it better. So can you talk about where you see 351X adding value to where we're at right now? And where do you think it'll add values both to your clients and to the government as a whole moving forward?
Well, kind of like we said, we have all these different systems we're already using. We have DIS, we have NIS, we have NBIS, we have ACCS and ENOM and SWIFT and all these things. We're not going to be able to get rid of all of them, unfortunately. But for us, be able to have a good picture of what's going on in our programs, we can do that. The problem is right now is like for FCLs, we have to go to NIS over here. For personnel security, we go to DIS over here. For InfoSec, we have to go for all this over here. And insider threat feeds into all of that. But most insider threat people, unless they're part of the security team and in NIS and in DIS and everything else, they don't get half that information either. So it's nice because 351X will actually kind of helps accumulate all of that into one place. Like all of your, it's a nice portal. We can see, okay, we have foreign travel reporting coming in. Okay, who's traveling? How many people do we have traveling? Not just currently, but how many people do we have even coming up? Who's come in and said and submitted their travel reports? You might hear, oh, Bob just got back from a cruise to the Bahamas. Okay, well, I don't remember seeing a thing for Bob. You can look real quick in 351X and see, did Bob report anything? You don't have to try to log into DIS, check DIS, then go, okay, well, let me dig through emails and let me try to find something from Bob. Okay, it's not from his work. Does he have a personal email? Let me try to search for a personal email and start searching Outlook for a personal email address. Good luck on that one. But, having that nice clean picture where everything's reported. You can see, okay, Bob is cleared. He submitted his pre-travel reporting, but he didn't do his post-travel. Hey, Bob, we can ping him real nice and easy because it's a nice place. We have a portal right there that shows a dashboard, and we can say, oh, we have a post-travel reporting that is overdue. We have, it's who has their training done. Well, the training is, we have X number of people whose training is due. All this stuff is just, it's a nice clean dashboard right off the bat. When you first log in, that shows a nice clean picture for not just on the insider threat side, but also for your personnel security side of kind of where your people are and what's going on. The mapping feature in there that kind of shows where your people currently are. Even if you have people traveling around the world, the map that kind of shows you, hey, you have people in Great Britain and people in Germany, and you have one person on a personal trip over into Mexico. Okay, well, where in Mexico? You might not want to be in everywhere in Mexico right now, just saying. But that whole thing, that's where the value is. how easily can you find this information? If I can log into a portal and pull up this information in 5 minutes versus taking an hour or more to dig through emails and figure out and log into government systems if the system is up. This, as anybody knows, is not always reliable to be able to log in. What if you have multiple cages? If you're trying to log into multiple different, if you're trying to check people across multiple cages, sometimes it does not want to let you change cages. So if you're in a multi-facility organization, like a larger company, say like HII, who has dozens of cages underneath their company, and people are assigned under different cages, okay, let me search for Bob. Okay, he's under this cage. Let me try to switch cages. Will this let me switch cages? Will it, or is it going to just keep spinning for half an hour? So it's nice not to have to just rely on going into one space. Yeah, once you find it, then you might want to go verify and see if things have been reported. But it's really nice to be able to go into that one portal and be able to just see a nice picture for your whole organization, regardless of how many cages you have.
Hey, Anthony. So, going back to the question I asked earlier about compliance and DCSA security reviews and things like that, how does 351X really kind of aid you in that? And, what do you predict will be the future of that?
Well, the future of that one, I know we've gone into some ways to try to help shape that one, and being able to go into 351X and see, okay, what contracts do I have? What programs do I have all in one nice place? Is the POP coming up due for it? So is that period of performance coming up? Is this contract even still active? Hey, this contract just ended at the end of February. Hey, PM, did we get an extension? Did the contract get modded? Are we in an option year? What's going on with this program? Things like that are, if you don't know to ask for them. I mean, I've met FSOs that had, when I said, what's the POP on your program? And they looked at me like I was speaking Greek. And I'm not Greek, but it's just the truth. Being able to look and see your program. Okay, you've got new programs. Okay, well, let's get, we got a new DD254, or this one's expired. Hey, this program has ended. Well, now we need to do a facility profile update in this and actually take that one out. Or we have new 1099s, 1099 employees. We need to make sure we have all their documentation correct. It's really nice to be able to see, and I know hopefully the goal will be like, hey, your self-inspections, we can actually come in here and help do our self-inspections and help keep all that logged appropriately in the system, and help build out that in the system to where it's not using a clunky fillable PDF form from DCSA that was last updated in 2022 to do our self-inspections. Because God knows if you don't have a good copy of that, if when you try to download it, if it downloaded and it got corrupted at all, PDF does not work. Not all the fields don't fill in. It doesn't tell you if you answer all your questions necessarily. Some of the fields, you'll answer every question in there and it says that none of them are answered. So there's some issues there, but that's where 351X will really show, especially on the compliance side, is helping alleviate the need for some of these other tools and just build it all into one nice little portal where we can all come in and then, hey, KMPs. Here's our self-inspection. Here's what we found. Here's where I need your help to get this fixed. Hey, CEO, I need you to help push this to the operations side and tell them they have to do this stuff. This is a ding against us. I know a lot of people blame the FSOs, but ultimately the buck stops at the SMO when it comes to your FCL, to your facility clearance. The bucks, they're going to blame the SMO. Yeah, the FSO is going to get a lot of headache over it, but the ISR is going to look right at that SMO and ask him, why didn't he verify this stuff was being done?
And I think that's the important thing about 351X is because we've put it in as easiest terms as possible for that SMO, so he can take a look or she can take a look at the dashboard and the data and make sense of it. I mean, FSOs, let's be honest, speak a different language. I mean, you have a million different acronyms. You have DFARS and DIS and NIS and NISPOM and 254s. I mean, you speak a different language. So sometimes if you're an average person like me, you'll need a translator whenever you go have the conversation with your FSO. The goal with 351X is that everybody has a common operating picture and they see the same thing. Now, this is very important for a company like FSO Pros, which is a fractional FSO company or a fractional industrial security company. And you have many different clients and many different facilities, and you may be also interacting with many different FSOs in the same company. Now, we've talked to companies that have, 5, 10, 15 FSOs spread out globally or whatever. What common operating picture are they seeing? How are they managing their platform? And we think that, by the way that we structured it, keeping fractional FSOs and multiple FSOs per tenant inside the system, seeing the same thing, it's just going to help them be so much better from a security standpoint, from a compliance standpoint, and just identifying those threats and risk and being a good partner with the United States government from a security standpoint.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's also a cost savings in a lot of ways too, because to even access some of these government systems, you have to have at least an ECA token, if not a CAC. Those ECA tokens are not cheap. They're a couple $100 a year right now, and the price goes up every year. So does for your SMO to actually go in and actually look at some of this stuff, say like in NIST or anything, they have to have one of those cards. Are they going to do it? Are they going to maintain this thing? They're going to maintain the access and log in every so often? Instead of, hey, let me just log into 351X. I don't have to buy an extra couple $100 card to be able to log in to this system, and I can see what's going on. I can ask my FSO what's happening. My FSO can say, hey, we've got an issue. Can you go in the system and just look and see what's been reported and let me know how you want to handle this? Those cost savings, the cost savings are not just, it's not just, oh, I don't have to buy these extra tokens, but also in time. And in corporate America, time is one of the biggest ways you make your money is by showing how efficient you are in getting your work done and how efficiently you can get the point across to your leadership. Because if you're a CEO of a big company, do you have time to really sit there and let someone ramble on and pull up multiple systems for an hour to try to show you how to do one task and show you how they did one task? Chances are no. Some CEOs, they're lucky they have 30 minutes to even just get an update from you once a month, if they even do it that often. So the 351X, being able to pull all of the stuff from compliance, insider threat, and PERSEC, and all these different parts of the industrial security program together and say, here's what our common operating picture is. Here's a dashboard that kind of gives us a nice overview of everything. And then where you can just go in and where you can really dive in without having to worry about all these nice extras, all this nice extra portals over here and dig in through trying to, okay, is the government portal down? Is it up? Can I report this? Or has this been? It's just nice to be able to just go into one place that's not reliant on a government backbone, so to speak, to actually log in and be able to gather the information you need to do what you need to do.
Well, Anthony, as always, these conversations are very interesting, and these hours tend to go by really quick, and we're almost at our hour point. So, we probably need to kind of wrap it up, but I'll kind of turn it over to Ryan to let him kind of tie it up for us, and we'll be done here.
All right.
So, Anthony, if you wouldn't mind, give us a plug for FSO Pros. Give us a plug for Anthony, and then maybe potentially give people a way of getting in contact with you.
All right. So for us, FSO Pros, we really do, our service is a little different than a lot of other companies. You have a lot of other companies out there that kind of do similar. You have everything from large companies out there to little small mom and pop shops that kind of do what we do. Where we differ is we come through and we try to tailor our services to our clients as best we can. There is no one size fits all for all of our clients. Everybody's requirements are different. Everybody's needs are different. Everybody's size is different. How can we tailor in to fit with you? We have different types of programs. We can provide different types of services, everything from, hey, we're running your program for you. You have your FSO in-house who's a figurehead. He could be a COO. He could be your CEO. He could be a PM that's over your government programs. And he's the FSO, but he doesn't have time to actually do the programs. He knows how stuff works. We teach him how things work. We teach him how to use the systems. We verify, make sure he knows how to log in and do the basics. But we come in behind and we do all the back end work. We submit all the VARs, we onboard all the people, we offboard and debrief everybody. We scrub the DD254s to make sure they're proper and they're adequate for the programs. If they're not, we push back and say, hey, here's what's wrong with it. Here's what needs to be fixed. And please reach out to your prime. Please reach out to your customer and say, we need this fixed. We help do all this. We can help do the self-inspections. We can help do almost all the tasks that a normal FSO or AFSO would be doing in-house. All the way down to, hey, we have some clients that are just like, we just need someone we can reach out to. We need that phone a friend, so to speak, that we have on retainer. So we do everything from full service all the way down to call us as you need us. And we even offer the services of you can come in and talk to us and just say, hey, I got one issue. I just need to go through and talk to you about this one issue. Can I just schedule time to just go over this one issue with someone who's a SME in their field, a SME in this topic, so I can figure out where I need to go with this and who I need to talk to and what information I need. So we kind of run the gambit from all sides of that part. And then we have, for me, like I said, I've been doing industrial security now in one fashion or another for about 15 years, and I've been doing security as a whole for almost 20 years now. Pretty much all of our industrial security consultants, all of us have been FSOs. We have people that have worked for DCSA. We have people that have done this. We have combined probably a couple hundred years worth of experience on our team, just in our ISCs. A lot of our security specialists have even been FSOs in their own right for other companies. So even the security specialist who's doing those normal personnel security day-to-day tasks, quite a few of our security specialists were FSOs for short periods of time at smaller companies, or just even at some larger companies, just for one of their separate facilities. So all of us have been doing this in one fashion or another for years, and in most cases, decades. So we really have a good large group to pull from. And even if I have not done something, like, say, if I haven't worked with a certain agency recently, someone on our team has, and I can reach out and say, hey, who's been working with this agency recently? What's the pain point for them, and where can we fix this issue?
All right, Anthony. I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of say, is there anything more you want to add to that?
Yeah, and to get a hold of us here at FSO Pros, please, the easiest way is to go to our website. It is FSOPros.com. That is FSO Pros with an S at the end. So FSOPROS.com is the easiest way to get a hold of us. Please go to the website. Any questions you have, you can submit the questions through our website, and we'll be happy to reach back out to y'all and get a hold of y'all and talk to y'all about what services we can offer you, or how we can help you keep your facilities up to date, how we can help you keep all your documentation up to date and keep you in compliance, and make sure you can bid on these contracts and work and do this work that y'all want to do.
And not lose your contracts. And I will add that on top of everything wonderful, I love the fractional concept because it consolidates talent in one place, and you're not just hiring one person, you're hiring a team, probably at the fraction of a cost of hiring a full-time employee. So I just love this fractional concept. And I hope to see it grow in other areas like insider threat program development, corporate counterintelligence. I mean, because it all plays together, and you could just have a much better capability than you would trying to hire that one unicorn employee that can do it all. So, and you have 351X, which is glorious, which is going to make everybody's life so much easier. So, Anthony, dude, I could probably have another hour-long conversation with you because you are a wealth of information whenever it comes to industrial security. And I really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us today and inform us on what it's like to be an industrial security consultant and an FSO. And man, just thank you so much, Dave. Final thoughts on this one?
No, yeah, I concur with all that. Anthony, it was a pleasure to meet you for the first time, and really enjoyed the conversation. Really some fascinating stuff. I think we covered a lot of ground. for our audience out there, I just kind of want to remind you that you can find us on ixnsolutions.com, and you can check out our Discord and Patreon channels. All of that will be linked in our comments below. But other than that, I'll turn it over to you to close it out, Ryan.
All right. And so as we end every episode, just remember the acronym R3. Recognize whenever a threat or risk presents itself, react to it properly, and then report it to your security professional, whether that's Dave and I, or as counterintelligence and insider threat professionals, or Anthony as your industrial security consultant, and so, or your FSO, or just let somebody know so that we can take action on it. And with that, thank you for listening. We look forward to talking to you the next time.